Hello everyone and welcome back to another Trove video. Today we are joined on this awesome dance pad that was built by White in the last stream. I'd like to thank him a lot for building this. It looks really cool and really realistic, and it looks exactly like the one that is in the game currently. Now I'm going to be talking to you guys today about another class tutorial. In this video we're going to be talking about the Shadow Hunter, which happens to be my favourite class in the game. Now the Shadow Hunter is a DPS class, which means damage per second, which means that he doesn't tank and he's really squishy, so he gets killed really easily, but he does a lot of damage. So my Shadow Hunter, I'll show you his stats now. He does 100,000 physical damage. He has 88.7 critical hit. That needs to be about 100%, and critical damage is at 671%. Now those are the three stats you need to be focusing on: the Trinity: physical damage, critical hit, critical damage. Now you need to make sure your critical hit gets to 100%, and then you just focus on physical damage and critical damage. I've gone for a movement speed build for my Shadow Hunter, so I've got these stats on my gear, and as I said, go for the Trinity. Now the Shadow Hunter, as all classes, has a 3 abilities and a passive. His left click is 4 abilities. Sorry, his left click is just a basic shot. I have his class gem ability, which means that his shots become a machine gun rather than firing once every second. His passive ability is that enemies will appear with a shadow mark above the head, photograph on screen now, which means that when you hit them with your right click, which is your radiant arrow, you will deal extra damage. Now the shadow mark and the radiant arrow isn't actually useful once you get to the end game, because with the end game, the shadow mark, what it does is when you hit it with your normal attack, the enemies will explode and deal damage around them, which is why the Shadow Hunter is able to deal crowd control. Otherwise he'd be a very single target damage class. Now his right click is called Radiant Arrow. You hold it back and you charge it, and you're able to shoot through blocks at enemies, which will be highlighted with like a purple border, and you can see them through blocks, which is really cool, so like a sniper class. Now your number 1 ability throws down something called a sun snare, which when enemies walk on top of it, looks quite cool. When enemies walk on top of it, it will explode and freeze them in place, which is really useful in Shadow Tower, especially Pinata, where you're able to freeze all of the little minions, take them out before they even get unfrozen. It's really helpful. That's number 1. Now his number 2 is called Arrow of the Goddess, and what it does is it applies the shadow mark to all of the enemies nearby. So you'll have shadow marks around all of you, and then it will fully charge a radiant arrow. So when all you have to do is press 2, jump in the air and press right click, and it will shoot a really powerful radiant arrow that will deal lots and lots of damage. Now we're going to be jumping into an adventure world now, and I'll be showing you how the Shadow Hunter fares against enemies. Okay, so we're in this world. We're in a Saurian swamp. Now if I can just find one, I'll try and show you what the shadow mark. Here you go. This enemy here is now shadow marked. So see that skull above his head? That means he's shadow marked, and it means I can see him through blocks. Now I can fire my radiant arrow through blocks and hit him, which is really helpful. Now my 1, which is the snare, will when enemies walk onto it, it will actually explode and deal damage and freeze them in place, which is really useful. Now I'm kind of overpowered for this world, so I kind of want to shot all of the enemies, but my 2 will mark them and fully charge a radiant arrow. Now as you saw there, the Shadow Hunter has a little bit of a bug with his projectiles, where if you're too close to an enemy, his radiant arrow will not do any damage. It's really annoying, and it only happens sometimes. But if it doesn't do any damage, then just be aware that is a bug, and it will be fixed in the future. So that is the Shadow Hunter, guys. If you enjoyed or would like to see other classes, then please do leave a like in the description and subscribe for more of my content. See ya.